Hello students, today we are going to do a very important poem which has been prescribed in your course called The Power of Music or Alexander's Feast by John Dryden. I'll start with a small introduction about Dryden. Dryden was born in a village in Northamptonshire on the 9th of August 1631, and he belonged to quite a good family which was very well to do. He took his degree in arts, and after his father expired and being the eldest in the family, he had to bear all the responsibilities. Then Dryden married his lady love, and by the end of 1667, Dryden had established himself as a dramatist, as a poet, and as a penetrating critic. In 1670, he succeeded Sir William Davenant as a poet laureate, and he became the greatest poet of his time. Dryden was also assailed by his opponents. They used to ridicule him, and therefore Dryden had an embitteredness in his poems, especially in the poem called Absalom and Achitophel. Now, the poem which we're going to do today, The Power of Music, it actually is a kind of, a tribute to the Roman Catholicism. And Dryden has written this poem in order to, pay tribute to Alexander and to Saint Cecilia, who was considered to be a pious saint but as well as a pioneer in music. In 1683, they began a series of annual concerts which was arranged by the stewards of the Society of Musicians to celebrate Saint Cecilia's Day that comes on the 22nd of November. Now, the stewards were responsible for commissioning a poet and a composer to provide an ode for the occasion. The performance with the orchestra and chorus usually took place at the stationer's hall. Dryden provided two odes, a song in 1687 and Alexander's Feast in 1697. On 3rd September 1697, Dryden wrote in his letter that I am writing a song for Saint Cecilia's Feast, who you know is the patroness of music. This is troublesome and no way beneficial, but I could not deny the stewards of the feast who came in a body to me to desire that kindness. So, Alexander's Feast was performed on 22nd November with music by Jeremiah Clarke and published by Tonson. There were the other performances also in December too. Now, this poem is an ode. That means it's a lyrical poem. And in this poem, Timotheus, who is the Greek musician, is represented as arousing different moods in Alexander, who is the conqueror, the greatest conqueror in history. And he is also the king of Macedonia. The musician, that is the Timotheus, arouses pride in him by singing the story of his divine birth, which is totally imaginary. Arouses zeal for war by singing in praise of Bacchus, the god of wine and war. Arouses pity by singing the deserted state of Darius II in the battlefield. Arouses love for Thais and arouses in him a feeling of revenge upon the Persian people for killing the Greek soldiers. So the poet ends by comparing the Timotheus and Cecilia and coming to a conclusion that they are the both greatest musicians in the history of music. A royal feast is held when Philip's brave son Alexander that won the great Persia. So he says it was at the royal feast for Persia won by Philip's warlike son. So the poem is ode and it is an irregular meter in celebration of Alexander's victory over Persia. Okay, and he says that it was a royal feast, people were rejoicing because Persia was won by Alexander. Philip was the father of Alexander. So, he says that in the opening lines that Dryden says that he describes the feast after the victory of Darius II by Persia of Persia by Alexander the Great, who was the son of Philip. The godlike hero sat on his imperial throne. So, aloft in awful state. Aloft means on a higher pedestal, on a higher throne. Awful means in a commanding position, the godlike hero. So, this is a simile where the hero, that is Alexander, has been compared to God. He sat on his imperial, that is royal throne. So Alexander is seen sitting in on his royal throne. His brave generals are sitting around him in a circle. His valiant peers were placed around their brows with roses and with myrtles bound. So the valiant peers means the brave soldiers, the brave courtiers were sitting around him in a circle, and they were wearing brows means their forehead were ornamented by the crown made of roses and myrtle flowers. So should desert in arms be crowned. So should means it is very apt that people who prove their mettle in bravery, they should be crowned with roses and myrtles. The lovely Thais by his side sat like a blooming eastern bride, in flower of youth and beauty's pride. Happy, happy, happy pair, none but the brave, none but the brave, none but the brave deserves the fair. So now the poet goes on to say that Alexander is sitting with his beloved, that is the courtesan named Thais. She is beautiful like a young eastern bride, and even the goddess of beauty is proud of her. And the poet says that happy, happy, happy pair. This pair, that is the pair of Alexander and Thais, seems to be very happy, and no one but only a brave person like Alexander deserves such a beauty. So these lines, none but the brave, none but the brave, none but the brave, are repeated in a chorus. Okay, so it shows the effect that only a brave person deserves the love of a beautiful maiden. So this completes our first stanza. Let's go to the second stanza. Now the poet talks about Timotheus. Timotheus, who is actually the great Greek musician. He says Timotheus is placed on high. So there is another stage or a kind of we can say higher pedestal made, and this is actually for Timotheus, who is a Greek musician. Actually, in reality, Timotheus was a Greek musician in 357 BC. He had actually expired on 357 BC, and Alexander was born in 356 BC. So in reality, Timotheus was not in the court of Alexander. Here it is only the imagination of John Dryden. So Timotheus is placed on high amid the tuneful choir, with flying fingers touch the lyre and the trembling notes ascend the sky. So the poem, he says, which is composed in commemoration for Saint Cecilia, says that the poet reveals the power of music to move men by citing the instances of Alexander. He says that the great Greek musician, that is Timotheus, he is sitting on a high pedestal, and he has his tuneful choir means he has his group of musicians, whether they are singers or they are instrumentalists, he has them sitting beside him, and with flying fingers touch the lyre. So with flying, now Timotheus is known for playing lyre. Lyre is a kind of a musical instrument which is placed by it is a very old musical instrument, and it is played by hand. So with flying fingers means with very fast fingers, Timotheus started playing the lyre, and the trembling notes means that the great music ascend the sky. It was so great that even the gods came to listen to the music of Timotheus. So the poet actually wants to say that when Timotheus moved his fingers rapidly on the lyre, the notes touched the sky. It inspired heavenly joys in the heart of the audience. Now Timotheus actually arouses various emotions in order to show that music has the power to arouse emotions in a person. The song began from Jove, who his blissful seats above, such is the power of mighty love. The songs began from Jove. Jove means Jupiter. Jupiter, who is actually the god of gods, who left his blissful seat above. So he says that even Jupiter was so inspired by the music of Timotheus that he had to leave his throne in heaven. Such is the power of mighty love, because after listening to the great music, Jupiter fell in love with Olympias, and he had to leave his seat on heaven and come down to the earth. So now, because he's a god and therefore he cannot he cannot come down in his original guise, therefore he disguised himself as a dragon's fiery form belied the god. So he disguised himself in the form of a dragon. Now, in the ancient myth, Zeus, that is Jupiter, is said to have made love in many different disguises, as a swan, as a shower of gold, as a bull. But here he is spoken as assuming the form of a dragon. And he came down from heaven to earth. Sublime on a radiant spires he rode. Sublime means great. He rode means he came down, and his spires, the gleaming coils of the dragon's body and the tail, that is the sublime radiant spires, when he to fair Olympia pressed. And what did he do? When he descended down upon his shining spires, he came down to beautiful Olympias. He enjoyed her white beautiful breast and curled himself around her waist. Now the result of this love affair was the birth of Alexander. And while he sought her snowy breast, round her slender waist he curled, and stamped an image of himself, means he made Olympias pregnant with Alexander. Olympia conceived the resemblance of Jupiter in her womb. And what happened? The listening crowd admire a sovereign of the world. Now this boy or this child of Jupiter is supposed to be Alexander, who is the conqueror or the ruler of the world. So this is what Timotheus sang. It is not a reality. The listening crowd admire the lofty sound. Now the crowd, that is the courtiers who are listening, they admired, they loved this great song about Alexander, which is sung in the praise of Alexander, calling Alexander the son of God. And a present deity, they shout around, a present deity, the vaulted roofs rebound. Present deity, a living God is among us, the generals shouted. They shouted that there is a God who is living and present before them in the form of Alexander, and this sound echoed in the whole court. With ravished ears, the monarch hears. Ravish means with hungry ears. Now everybody is very hungry for their praise. So their loud voice, which was echoing, and Alexander was overjoyed to hear the applause of his divine birth. Assumes the god. Now his stature or his sitting or his manners is as if he is the god. Affects to nod, and he nodded his head in accordance with what Timotheus is singing, that he is the son of Jupiter, and seems to shake the spheres. And he began to look like a real god, and he felt as if he had the power to shake the whole planet. I will do the remaining stanzas in the next video. Thank you.